Alrighty, Doc here from North America. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So, what do we got going on today? What am I look? Oh, I'm looking at the PBOC. I thought that was interesting. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll go right to the currencies. Let's take a look at the Swiss. Let's see now. Let's go to line two. Oop, where is it at? Right there. There we go. Move that over like so. There we are. And let's go to right there. You can see the Swiss is moving down. Same thing is going on over here at J4X. You can see that same pressure. See it broke the line. You see the same thing going on with Chicago Quant right there. Oop, wrong spot. Right there. You can see it also broke the line, went into the sell yesterday. Pressure is on like that. And we'll change that color too. And I guess the dollar is going to be sold down a little bit now. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not sure. None of it ever seems to me to be enough in the sense of is there that much pressure? Is there do the central banks really want to see a lot of activity? I think they like to see stability. That is usually the norm. You can see here since the election, it broke that 90 area finally after years, and it's moving down slow and steady. And we went into that weekly sell from here, and it wasn't much of an excitement. I mean, it went down, but now it's back into the buy. We'll see what they try to do here and see how long this lasts. Maybe they challenge this low here or that low there, and then they bounce back up again. We're just not confident that there's a desire by the central banks of the world and the Federal Reserve for much volatility and activity. We just don't see that. So that's where we are at the moment. All right, let's see. Let's jump over to the euro. Euro is doing exactly what it should be doing. Since the Swiss is going down, this thing should be moving up against the dollar, and it is. And it went into it couldn't go into the buy yesterday until the start of this bar here, solely because of the red and the green. Let's give it a refresh just to doubly check. Oop, right there. And you can see that's it. So it's now into the buy. Um, Again, we're not really sure how high it'll go. Yesterday, one of the things that caught my eye was the cable at one point broke again higher to a new high into the 137 area, which was kind of cool. And we keep on thinking that it wants to fight its way into the 38s and 39s. But will we see that a move when it comes to the euro? I'm not really sure. I guess that's not the best way to look at euro. I like to look at it J4X wise. When you go and look at, let's see, let's do it this way. We'll go like there, and we'll put the euro up on J4X, and you'll be able to see, how far back we've been moving up on. And then let's make it a weekly like so. There we are. And so here it comes, and you can see it's definitely at what is that? That is, just double check here. It's a 2-year high. There's a 3-year high right there. So just as the cable, they're making some bold moves into some of the 2 and 3 going back all the way to 2018 right here. But it's still not anything explosive. All they're doing is making back territory. Again, when you really think about it, what are they doing to the dollar really? I guess the same thing in the sense of it's just putting it back to where it had been, but not anything explosive. Just a move back. Now here's cable. Let's look at a cable. It's in the 37s again. We'll put it up on Chicago Quant. And same situation. They're coming back up to this territory, and they've been trying. But overall, the central banks and the Fed have these products basically locked into a really solid, safe range. I think that's the best way to describe it. Now you can see here, again, same situation with the volatility. Dots right there. We got the action basically said, when the opening of the second bar, today's bar would be the beginning of it, or last night's bar, I guess in this case here, and you can see it's moved back up, and we're in the weekly buy of this. Whereas over on the cable, I'm not cable, I'm sorry, whereas we are on the euro, we are in a weekly sell, I believe, still. Let's see. Let's go back to that again, right there. Yeah. See, and the line is down below the time manifold, so I'm not really confident it's going to do anything too exciting here. Whereas when we look at the cable in the same time frame, right there, we're through the highs of that area there. So not really comfortable with the idea of thinking that this is a big move. This is just a. We're now going to go back into the era, at least for the next 2 years, of slow, steady grinds in directions. Cut back on the volatility. Try to just slow, steady up moves. Only geopolitical or economic loud noises will have some effect, but there won't be sellers because they know that the central banks are going to be basically pushing in one direction, and that is stability and up. That's it, stability and up. And so that's where we are there. All right, now I guess what I'll do is jump over to Turkish lira, and I guess Turkish lira is a really good example of that flavor. You can see again trying to find, gets into the buy here, doesn't go anywhere. Look at this white line below the time manifold itself. Not even interested in trying to challenge the line as tight as this is getting, and it is getting tight. And when we scrunch it, you can see it has dropped pretty dramatic, and we're getting tight in here. Maybe a little widening, you can see right there, but overall, this we're back into the sell again. Back in the saddle again. And there's the sell there. So, there we go. And it's just, just light action. And, it wouldn't be bad. When the whole world is in such debt and there's not a lot of growth or any growth. Saw an interesting headline earlier. I guess it's a good example, growth, inflation. And they were saying, world food prices are at all-time highs, but there's no inflation. And it had a question mark at the end there. People were wondering, where's the inflation? Well, the objective, when you have all this capital sitting in the banks, keeping the banks propped up, but they're not really able to lend money out any more freer than they had been over the last 10 or 12 years to begin with. So there's no reason for inflation. In other words, it's one thing if they print all this money and then they put it into the system. The person down the road decides they want to open up a garage. They don't have any assets, but the bank says, "Oh, sure, we got a ton of cash laying around here doing nothing. We're going to give you money to start that garage." Those days are gone. It doesn't happen like that. Now you have to have assets to lean up against, a decent business plan that makes logical sense. The central banks, and in the United States, the Federal Reserve, their examiners go into the banks and look at how they loan money. And if they loan money wrong, the banks get punished. So they're not interested in, as long as they're making their money, they don't need to do any better than what they already are. Just slow, steady, positive growth. And you can see the earnings are starting to come out here in the U.S. stocks right now this week, and looks all firm. There's no reason for anybody to take any big risk. When we're talking about the commercial banks, like a Wells Fargo or a Barclays Bank or Santander, any of these commercial banks, they're not knocking the socks off. They're not doing really great. They're just surviving. Their earnings are okay. Barclays is still 85% under 90%, something like that, underneath its price from all-time highs. Same as Citibank in the United States. The banks that were really, in real trouble are still in real trouble. It's just that, the stability of the system. Deutsche Bank's what? It's still trading at, I guess, like 91% off its all-time highs. In other words, they're in bankruptcy territory. Every one of those banks we're talking about, Santander, Citibank, was it? I think HSS, HSBC. You know, there's so many banks like that. I don't even know. Do they even trade Lloyd's of London that much in the sense of activity? But compared to what it used to be, they're not. They're not exploding. The ones that are the ones that didn't get in trouble, and so they're not being punished. So like a Goldman Sachs, a Wells Fargo. Let me think. Who else is it? A Bank of America. Even if it's probably the runt of the litter, Pennsylvania PNC Bank, Pennsylvania National Commercial Bank, you know, all the ones that did not do the foolish investing. That's why Merrill Lynch is not a brokerage house anymore independently. It's owned by somebody. They all went out of business, and so when we look, someone says, "Hey, what's this got to do with currencies?" It's to try to understand how the central banks are keeping everything in line, and how if you're a smart trader, you will not take enormous risk. You'll just get into a position that, just enough. And what I mean by taking a lot of risk is, let's say you use 15% of your equity instead of like 70% of your equity to put a position on. In other words, nibble away, traders, nibble away. That's the key right there, because the markets are going to be sideways firm now for the next couple of years, and more than likely, if you don't, what do they say? Bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs go to slaughter. So don't be a pig. I think that's what it really comes down to. All right, and there's the Turkish lira. Now let's check out the Canada. And there is right there, dollar Canada. I think it went into the sell again yesterday. Yeah, it did. And it's weak. It's weak. You can see it's stayed in the weekly sell, so that pressure is on. It tried over here. I mean, it tried to get into the buy. I mean, we got the daily buy, we got the pop, the whole gig. We said don't worry about it too much. Sure enough, it'll come back down, and there it is, making another low. Now let's put Canadian over on the J4X and take a look at it in a little bit longer perspective. There it is right there. And that's a weekly chart. As it loads. Loading up. Load the boat. Okay, so you're looking at, there's 2019 right here. We're broken those lows, and here is 2000. That's 2018 right there. No, it's 2019. So I guess we have room to come all the way down into this area here in the low 120s. And as long as we stay in that weekly sell, where it started off in the 130s, 131-ish area, 130 and a half area, something like that. And now we are in the 126-ish area. Chances are this thing is probably going to find its way down into the 122s or 23s before it's all done, especially with the way this weekly is trying to roll again. And now we're in the daily sell, and if we scrunch it up a little bit on our work, like so, you can see that they have plenty of room to beat up on it, no doubt about it. This was interesting, how it got into the sell here, and then they had the 1 week of the buy, and then it just put it right back into the sell again. In other words, obviously the longer term traders are, the position traders or position investors, or however you want to describe them, is obviously one that believes that the value of the Canadian dollar is going to have more and more value to it. Quiet day today, isn't it? No one yakking away. Doesn't anybody want to see anything? That's all right. I can keep on going through the whole montage of how we look at the world each day as a professional trader, and see what we can find. So let's keep on marching. Let's see. I think I'll interrupt this with a little sip of my tea at the same time. Remember, it's morning breakfast time here in the States. Put the lid back on the old teacup. All right. Keeps it warm. So now let's jump over to the NASCAD. Now, let me just throw this in. As this shows weakness, normally we expect to see firmness in oil. And we'll see now, NASCAD has been kind of contradicting that. It's been saying, hey, no, not yet. No, not yet. And it's been working its way down. Now, there you go. Today it's lifting its head up. So let's check out crude oil, because I do know crude closed in a daily sell yesterday. So let's take a look at that right there. Where we go like that? There we are. And there's crude oil. I was looking at it earlier. I think I posted it up on LinkedIn or something like that. That's why it was up there. And you can see here it's already trying to do its little bounce. And its little pressure is on. It's below yesterday's close, and there's a little pressure. But look at the weekly. Very strong. They don't seem to have much life to it. But the Canadian dollar keeps on heading down, which is normally a sign of strength here. And when the NASCAD is heading down, which it had been, we'll go back to the NASCAD real quick right there, which it had been over the last 2 weeks, we saw oil. Let's go back to oil. Oil was just sideways out of it all. And they tried to sell it down. It couldn't hold up or any of that. And then finally, the little high popped there yesterday and a close in the daily sell. And now it's just trying to turn again. But again, the weekly is saying, nah, not really. We loved you at 45. We wanted to marry you at 50. Now we're having children up in the high 50s coming. That's what it looks like. In other words, it doesn't want to go down. It wants to go up, up, and away. All right. And so at the same time, we will go through the oil complex now, since no one's... Oh, there we go. Hey, George. How you doing? Silver and gold sometime. Yeah, sure. Let me save that like that. There we go. Now, let's take a look at that. This is the... Metals are a surrogate for the currencies constantly. And there's silver. Silver's holding up, but it's in the weekly sell. So I really don't... Robin said he seems to be spotting some real strength. We're waiting for it. And, love to see the weekly right here start to turn up at least. Get through the time manifold right there. And, it's gone into the buy here. And it's not doing too well. I mean, it's higher after a lot of shakiness, But it's, it's basically saying it's a neutral position because this is up. It's a buy. This is a weekly sell. So I guess we're not really going to be getting much of any real action there. So we'll save that one too. We're going to look at them. We might as well save them, And then we take a look at gold. And there is gold. And let's give it a refresh. It too closed into the buy. And it tried to get into the weekly buy last week, but just didn't do it. And now look at this. I guess there's just no real conviction. I think that's the magical word we like to use in trading, is conviction. The real investors are just not, as much as it looks like they should jump in and buy it and be involved in it, they're just kind of standing to the side. Now we posted something yesterday, Robin and I, about the platinum. How the platinum spread, because Mrs. Yellen her policies will probably make platinum outperform gold. So, did I say that? I think I did. Let me just save that again. And then let's take a look at platinum too, since we've gone into the metal sector. Because, let's get rid of that. And then, let's take a look at the platinum right there. Look at that. See, that's why we posted that article. Let's see. Let's refresh it to make sure it's legit. Yes, it is. It's legit. Look at that, making more highs. Let's go over to... I don't think they have platinum on Dukascopy. That's too bad, because I would love to see, the highs there of the last couple years. One thing's for sure. And that is that it's taken out the February highs with no problem. You can see there. There's your February highs. And it's cleanly running. And then, let's see. Let's do this. So there's platinum. It's doing that thing it does. It's the Yellen spread, as I like to call it. And let's take a look at gold in the same circumstance of back to February. Let's just scrunch it up again like I did the other. And look at that. When it comes to gold, woof, woof, woof. Let's see. We went back to February of last year, so I guess we got to go like this. got there? So I guess is that right? There's August, September. Let me just do the platinum again. I'm a little confused now. Doc's a little confused now. Let's see. What were we looking at there? Let's scrunch that up again. No, that was February, wasn't it? Yeah. That was showing us February of 2020. And platinum was in the $1,000 area, and now we are in the, where's it trading at right there? 1150 basically. Up $150. Now what's curious is as much as, let's see, let's go to the gold again. Because it's saying something differently to me in my mind. And that is back in February of 2000, we're looking at a gold that's 1700, and now we're looking at a gold that's, it's actually still performing much better. There's no doubt about that. What we're seeing here though is this. We're seeing how low this is from August, the 2100 area, and that's what's got me confused, because when we go and look at platinum from that same time frame, so it's not the 1 year basis, because this last year is the thing that's really wrecked the daylights out of that spread. And so what we're seeing is in the August here, we're seeing a platinum of 900 and, I don't know, what is that, 970, right? And so now we're trading at 1170? there's 1124. So from 1124 to 970, it shows great movement this way for the spread. But going back to February, yeah, that's the platinum. Platinum was, I guess, trading in that area, and then with the COVID, they slammed it. That's what did it. And boy, did they wreck the spread. They just destroyed that spread, which was really, a very curious thing. So, I mean, that is the gist of it all. All right, now, let's see. What we're really saying more than anything else is obviously the movement that they did to the gold platinum spread is obviously over. The new policies of Secretary Treasurer Yellen are going to move this back into that $150, $200 area probably, if not better. Who knows? We'll just follow the quants. But right now the quant is screaming that platinum is the place to be, and obviously you can see it. All right, because look at just the weekly alone. That's how we're measuring this thing. You can see the weekly itself is just much firmer and more solid compared to, the gold. Let's do this too. Let's save this. There it is right there. Done. And then when we go back to the gold, you can see you can see as much as the action's been fantastic, over the last 4 or 5 months, it has not been able to perform whatsoever compared to platinum. And that's what the quant keeps on saying. Look at in and out of these cells, just constantly finding ways to get back into the weekly sell. Daily buys. Look at these. Some of these daily buys have been insane. Where you're in, you're out, you're in and out. In other words, money is not committable to this product, which is really odd because the whole world seems to be going to hell in a handbasket. But used to be the place to run to. Now, what we normally do too is we look at Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is supposedly the new surrogate of silver, gold, government indexes, the government and the indexes and so forth. And you can see here, it's, you're talking about only $8,000 off its high, but there's been some vicious articles about the clearing operations that are, and I don't mean they're fake or anything, but the stories themselves are really dark. The clearing of transactions are not very good here. So in other words, you buy a Bitcoin or one of these crypto, not only Bitcoin, all the rest of them, you buy these cryptos, and then the leverage is like 100 to 1. I talked about it yesterday. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal showing where the banks in Wall Street thought, "Hey, there's Daniel. Long time no see. Where you been hiding? You been on holiday for the last couple of weeks?" The Wall Street Journal was saying that everybody on Wall Street thinks everybody owns Bitcoin when in fact they've they're taking a look at their positions because they have to show their positions quarterly for the Securities Exchange Commission, and like nobody is long Bitcoin. Wall Street keeps on telling the clients, "Oh yeah, buy Bitcoin, we love it," and then they're not buying it for their own portfolios. So that's a real, I still have some agricultural exams. Okay. All right, that's good. Look at this. Daniel's got a whole checklist. It seems that Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Google are up in pre-market. I think up in pre-market, then falling a bit. Could be. I don't know. Right now, what do I have here? You want to take? I have some of these on there. Let me do this. Let's see if we can do this. We'll open this one up and go to that particular page right there. Now here's Apple. There, that's Tesla, of course. There's Apple, and it's up, and it's been in a daily sell for 2 days, but it's in a weekly buy. So you can see that it's kind of conflicted. Amazon, it is been in a daily sell for 2 days and then closed in a daily buy yesterday, and it's also fighting now to get into the weekly buy. You can see it's kind of trapped in its range. There's, I guess, back in December, that was the high, I guess, maybe all-time high, 3,350, and let me just look at it again. Yeah, so the all-time high is 3,350.66, and yesterday it closed at the high was 3,279, and so they may be, we'll see in another. I think this starts to update in another 4 or 5 minutes, something like that. So we'll be able to see a little bit better action there of it. And then what was it? Some of the others you said? Microsoft and Google. Let's look at Google. Google's same way, right there. Now Google's been in a daily buy for a couple days. You see it here, and let's see. I think it's been in a weekly buy now. Yeah, so it's been in a weekly buy for a couple of weeks, I believe it is. Yes, I think this is where it went into the weekly buy right here. So we went into the weekly buy here. Let me just look on the spreadsheet. We do have a spreadsheet for that. Let's open it up. All right. There it is. Here it comes. Google is in a buy for 8 weeks. Okay. So it's been doing that flirting thing. And it's daily buy for 2 days. Now that's interesting. I see. Yeah, so Apple's in a daily buy, and so is Amazon. So let's minimize that and then go back and look at Apple for a second, because I could have sworn I just said it was in a daily sell. Yeah, it's in a daily buy. Okay. So we're not seeing, this is yesterday's close. So we'll see. And, you can see it's been in a, let me go back to that again. Where are you? Where'd you go? There it is. Yeah, and so it's 1 week, 7 weeks in a weekly buy. See, Amazon's fighting its way to get into the buy. That's what's interesting is the weekly there. What was the other product there? I think you had another one in there too. Where is it? Google. Oh yeah, okay. So let's see. So Daniel says, as I know, the stock indexes are usually rallying after U.S. markets close. Then they dump when markets open. Profit taking, I imagine. I think Biden may be out by end of March, maybe. The Pentagon doesn't recognize the new administration. I don't know about that, but it wouldn't. There's no doubt that he's very. Look, this whole thing is crazy. He's the Congress's president. He's not the people's president. I can tell you that much. The 6 states pulled their electoral college votes from him, but the Congress accepted them because they had already had them in hand, and so they refused to honor the states. So we'll see. I mean, a lot of noise is going to be about that over time, but I don't think he has to worry. There is no such thing as like a military coup in this country. So there's institutional coups, but not military. Let's see. By the end of March, let's see. Essentially, FANG that went up in pre-market. Netflix 583 pre-market up 16% from the close. Yeah. There's some really strange things going on with Netflix. I'm getting an advertise. I have a Netflix account, and I'm seeing some of the strangest things. Like there's TV shows that are being shown on there that are on Comcast. I'm really, they've really expanded themselves enormously, successfully. See, I personally don't like any of these companies, though. Notice the moves. Yeah, I know. There's a lot of. I hear you. I agree. There's a lot of. What's the best way to describe it? Uh, there's look. There's earnings are solid. They're not fantastic. There's no other place to go when it comes to investing in equities, and managers need to be invested in the popular companies. And remember, they're investing money, and it's not theirs. So they've got to do that thing that they do. They've just gotta. They don't have a choice. They really don't have a choice. So, I mean, I think that's probably the real crutch of it all. And so, there's not much more to be said about that. Unfortunately, that is the way it rolls. I just want to finish off copper. We've seen how the other metals are moving. Let's just see what the copper's doing. Copper, you can see, is still in the buy there for a couple of days and lifting up. I just wanted to finish the metals complex so I know it in my head that I don't have to save it again. So there it is right there. There we go. But no, I agree with you about the stock indices versus the stocks and the FANGs. But remember, they're the most popular, and believe me, the volume is dramatic. I mean, that's where all the money is. I mean, they used to call that on the trading floor a crowded trade. That's what they used to refer to it as, a crowded trade. And you didn't want to get stuck in a crowded trade because they used to compare it to the birthday game, musical chairs. You didn't want to have the music stop and not have a chair. That was that, and that's what the concern is always about that those products. Yeah. So, I agree with you. There's a lot of question marks. Maybe that's why Amazon's having its problems about trying to get rolling along. It's just going sideways. All that time period there. Let's see now. What else? Where are we headed for here? Let's take a look at. We were looking at that was the metals, but we were looking at energies. I just want to take a look at natural gas. You can see natural gas keeps on trying to find a way to roll over, and I don't know. We're not getting the cold weather here in the States, but we see the Middle East and we see China going through some incredible freezing stuff. That's really put it. I didn't mean to use the word like a joke, but it's put a chill into the winter. It's much colder. A couple 100 years of really cold weather in the Middle East and in Asia. So it's something to be thought about there. Let's see. Daniel says S&P has upside from where it is right now. It's at all-time highs. It just keeps on marching up. It doesn't seem like anything is slowing it down. There isn't much of a demand to sell. I mean, look, there's 17 trillion. I remind traders all the time, not 17 billion, not 17 million, 17 trillion in assets that are not getting a return. In other words, they don't make money. Their money is tied up. Not only that, most of it loses money. So it's they need to do something. And if the banks are going to be not volatile, and then the equity markets are not going to be volatile, they might as well own the stocks. At least they can get a dividend out of it or something of that nature, And that's probably really the answer. Daniel says natural gas sideways, trying to attempt a yearly pivot. Yeah, take a look at the natural gas. Natural gas is really weird. Look at the way the weekly is. What is that? What is going on there? I mean, I want to say, well, is my chart messed up or something? But no. I mean, that's today. And it's look at that weekly. I mean, the weekly is launching itself. And the daily is just caving in, It's gone from 280 down to 240s and change. We're at the lows. I don't get it. It's a very strange thing. The math is really screaming at us something's wrong in it. I mean, in other words, it's telling us that more than likely next week this thing could aim right down. The weekly could just fall apart. Yearly pivot is 247 on natural gas, trying to break through that. This can go from a sideways market to a bear market. Yeah. It's the temperatures around here. Now, Robin says they had like an inch and a half or so dusting off of, or I guess a centimeter of snow, something like that, maybe a little less. I mean, that's not normal for them. They usually have like, half a foot by now, or a foot, or let's put it this way, like a meter of snow. They don't, barely any snow for them, and they're already like, let's see, what is it? We're a third through the winter now. So that's like, wow. Now, by the time we get into 30 days from now, and we saw snow, I guess it was before Christmas, and we haven't seen any snow since. I mean, we get dustings around here, but nothing major, and not even that. We don't even get a dusting. So we're not really seeing, with the North Pole now almost 1,000 miles into Siberia, away from where it was, we're really getting a different shift to the weather. So let's see. What else? Daniel's fed us a lot of stuff here. Essentially, FANG that went up pre-market big. Netflix. Okay, yeah, we read all that. Okay, so I think we got everything answered there. Now we could do this too. We could take a look at those indices that you're talking about. I mean, look at the Nasdaq. At all-time highs today again. Again, it's the place to be. I mean, there is no other. I mean, if there's 17 trillion on the planet not making any money whatsoever, well, then there is a desperation. They have to have something that's making money. Now there's the S&P 500, same situation. All-time highs. It's firm, steady. It reminds me of the Obama years. Where the central banks just don't let it go down. It doesn't go up much. I mean, it goes up, 6-7%. I mean, you got to imagine the stock market doubled under Mr. Trump over a 4-year period, or a three-year period, I guess. I don't know, 4-year period. So I mean, I don't think we're going to see a $62,000 Dow in 4 years from now. That I doubt we see. So let's see what's next. Is this? This is the S&P. So did we say the S&Ps? All right, let's do that. There we go. Let's save the S&Ps. And then you can see the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is right there, got into that buy yesterday. By a hair of its chin, and it's trying to lift. Now it's an old index. It does have 6 of those stocks you talked about. It has Microsoft in there and Cisco Systems, and it has Apple, and it has what else it has in there? It has Microsoft and Intel, and it has Salesforce. So the Dow Jones Industrial Average is not just a New York Stock Exchange indice anymore. It's it's like the S&P 500 in a sense. It's got all the biggest and best in it at the same time, which is kind of odd, because it was really a marketing tool for the New York Stock Exchange for a century and a half. And so that's where we are. And then you can see the Russell, which is kind of curious. It's tried to get into the sell yesterday, just missed it, just by the hair of its head, chinny chin chin. And then you can see here, it's lifting up again. And let's just refresh that. And it's holding up on the weekly and the whole bit. It's looking very, very firm here. The stock indices themselves, like I said, there's nowhere else to go. If how do you tell your investors that you don't want to be long stocks and you're going to buy bonds and lose money? Yeah, they're not going to keep their money with you. So they've got to. So all these funds have to keep on playing the game like as if they've got a magic wand. They know what they're doing. Let's see. Oh wow, here you go. Daniel says this. Let's see, natural gas. Let's see. The thing is, if vaccines don't work, a lot of people who vaccinate might die. What vaccine for what? I've seen cases upon cases where vaccinated people actually get COVID and test positive. Let me show you a story this morning. Now, I'm not a real big fan of this virus to begin with. And I was going to talk about the People's, Republic thing, but let me just find this story that is basically going to show you that it's not exactly. Look, let me just tell you this, and I know this turns off people. More people died in 2019 in America than they did in 2020. Okay? And more people died in 2018 in America than they did in 2019 or 2020. All right? So we're at a 3-year low of deaths in America. Now, I don't know. I don't even pay attention to the news that you probably pay attention to, but I have no idea really how serious this COVID-19 thing is. As far as I can tell, it's all a political thing. And let me just find the story. This morning, it's a screaming story about it right there. It's the headline. And here it is right there. And I'm going to put it up on the board there, and you can take a look at it yourself. Okay, here it comes. So there it is right there. Well, you know what? Let's do it this way. We'll just shift it instead. So let me just push the button. And here's the story this morning by who, I guess it is, right? So there's the article right here. Let's highlight it right there. Right on cue for Biden, who, which is the World Health Organization, admits high cycle PCR tests produce massive COVID false positives. Okay. Were the conspiracy theorists just proven right about the fake rescue plan for COVID? Did the science deniers just get confirmation that it was a political after all? All right, now let me just go back to what I said to you. Now, I know this is going to sound crazy and people are going to go, oh, this is insane. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But CDC says that 2018, I have a chart for it even, but I'm not going to beat the drum. But 2018, there were more deaths in America than there are in 2019. Overall deaths, all right? Not flu deaths, not cancer deaths, deaths. So more people died in 2018 than they did in 2019. And 2019 was a lower number than 2018. So it means less people died in America. And then 2020, again, less people died in America than 2019. So we're at a 3-year low in deaths in America. So I don't take this COVID-19 thing too serious. I mean, I'm paying attention to it at some level because everybody's walking around with masks on, and they've wrecked the whole election system was all screwed up from it. And that's why there's 75 million to 80 million people who are frustrated because Trump won, and they won't give him the victory. All right, that's the way it goes. That's America. So it's it'll bounce back. But and here's all the information right there. So this is what's it say here? Some hack at the CDC or FDA will issue new guidances lowering the CT, the lab use, and cases will magically start to fall. See that right there? So it says, in reality, the change only eliminates false positives. Most Americans won't know that. So what's it say here? Good old Uncle Joe will be a hero, even though it is deep state actors and health bureaucrats who won't solve a problem with testing they have been aware for months. And they say what? TDS is a hack of a drug. So, I don't, like I said, I don't pay attention to regular news. That's why people tune me in here at Dukascopy. I'm only giving you math and numbers, real numbers. And so if we don't have like 1 million more dead in 2020, then was the virus any worse or better? I don't get it. Aren't we supposed to be measuring by deaths? In other words, wasn't the Spanish flu like 18 million more dead a year later? Here we are a year later, and we have less dead than we had 3 years earlier. So you see what I'm saying, Daniel? I I try not to take it too serious because I have not seen any math over the last 8 or 9 months that says that C19 is like some Spanish flu. I just don't see it. But the world thinks it is. So, who am I? I'm just a trader who's right 9 out of 10 times, basically. So that's where my head's at. I don't take any of that serious. So there's your answer to, because you put a lot up there too. It says, where's it at? It starts off with, the thing is the vaccines don't work. I don't know if they're supposed to work. Who the hell knows? I don't know. It's just a marketing thing and it's a political thing to begin with. A lot of people who vaccinate might die. Everybody dies. So essentially, this is a possibility of depopulation. Chances this is bad for oil and natural gas. Could be. The only thing that can go up in that stimulus environment is stocks. Yeah, well, there's nothing else to buy at this point. I mean, it's a very small. I mean, I think, you put the FANGs up at one point. I actually think the FANGs are some crazy thing like 26% of the whole volume every day. Can you imagine that? So in other words, you take the other 4,000 or 5,000 stocks or 6,000 stocks in the universe, and you put the 7 or 8 FANG stocks that they pay attention to, like Facebook and what's it? 2Fs now, don't they? Isn't there 2Fs now? Facebook is 1F. All right, and then maybe there's 2 or 3 A's, like Amazon and Apple, and then there's Netflix, and then they sometimes try to do FAM with an M, with Microsoft and Google, and they put an S on it at some point or another. In other words, yeah. So I mean, that the FANGs themselves can be like 24% of the volume in a given day of the stocks traded in America. Out of all the thousands and thousands of companies, the FANGs are it. It's the place to be. It's what did I call it? We used to call it on the trading floor. It's a crowded trade. It's a very crowded trade. Only thing that can go up is the stimulus environment. Some key stocks and gold will go up from stimulus. That is all. However, the vaccines doesn't get a large scale. The chance of a recession is a lot smaller. Yeah, well, they're not going to allow a recession. Yes, 2019 more deaths than 2020. Exactly. And 2018 there were more deaths than 2019. There's been numerous reports that they label any death as a COVID one. Right, exactly. Because cancer supposedly can't, if you look at it mathematically, COVID cures cancer and heart disease. We are at all-time lows of people dying from cancer and heart disease now in America. Yeah, it was just a political thing as far as I can tell. And it did what it had to do. They, like I said, the 6 states pulled their electoral college votes from Biden to Trump, but the Congress refused to accept it, and they took Biden. So that's the way it goes. But they sent official letters to the House of Representatives and the Senate and told them. And the last one was, I think, Arizona on January 5th at night they did. So, that's why that's why we just saw an inauguration with almost nobody there, with 26,000 troops armed to the teeth and barbed wire everywhere, because the Democrats know they stole the election. And they don't, there's nothing else to be done, and the media loves it. So there's articles on this crypto. I've been saying to you, the last week or so, last 5-6 days, that are really beating up the clearing system, that are really shaking the cryptocurrency market. I guess Bitcoin is down from its all-time high about 22-23%, something like that. But it's not really getting crushed or anything like that. It's just down. That's it. That's a current a product that can go up or down, 20, 30, 40% in a given week with no problem. It's a wild animal. So. All right, where are we at here? So what did we do? We did the stock indices too now. Okay, so we did the metals, we did the energies. Oh, did we look at bean oil? When we look at the energies, we take a look at bean oil at the same time. Let's see what else. What else can we chase after? Oh yes, let's take a look at bean oil. Let me just go there real quick. Danny, you were good today, man. You really got it cranked up. I loved it. There's bean oil. Look at it, perking it back up again. We're seeing some energy come back into this. I saw that article about, like I said, about the. Let's see. There's bean oil. You know, about the world food prices. They're just going through the roof. All this cold weather's got to have a lot of people freaked out. When they're trying to basically I don't know how else to describe it, but I'm sure when you have record cold and you have people that need to be fed, things are getting pretty wild. All right, and that is the oil. That's the end of the oil. Now, I guess what Daniel is really saying, when you really think about it, is that the world is having its capitulations about certain aspects of physical reality. So, in other words, look at that. That is not in a sell. That's in a buy. They've changed the math again. So we're just going to leave it like that and just go like, okay, there we go. It's not in a weekly anyway, so you wouldn't want to be playing with that product anyway. But this is the world starving. You can see it. They're just taking this stuff up. The commodities keeps on, launching itself. It doesn't seem to find a way to do anything but go up very firmly. It kind of goes with Daniel's idea of fangs and all. On Forex, the dollar continues to lose value. Some exotic currencies may experience a huge downside. This depends on what happens on the geopolitical scale. Right, I agree. These exotics, that never really had any traction until the world went bankrupt, now have some wonderful traction, which is really funny, I guess, odd. But it shows you that they're not using. Think about it. It shows you that they're not using the fundamentals anymore to move currencies around. They're actually places to park money itself. I mean, that's what it's screaming. The days of looking at GDP, inflation, interest rates, they have become less, even more less than even what Janos was saying from Dukascopy about fundamentals. I mean, it's gotten so bad now that we don't even see that having a lot of meaning anymore. That's the whole weird part about it all, is that fundamentals. So now you've got some pairs trades, the exotic ones, as you would say, or what they are is they're very soft to the side nations with not a lot of growth, or industrial production, or things like that we used to use as a measurement for fundamentals. Now all of a sudden they're rock stars. You're right, and a lot of traders here have been realizing that you don't really want to get too much involved in those products because they could be the cockroach hotel. In other words, you get in them and you can't get out of them. But you know what? I want to defend them. And that is that due to the fact that the central banks now are buyers of last resort and they control the overall rhythm of the marketplace, I think you can be less fearful, I guess you could say. I think that's the way to look at it. In other words, they're not going to basically destroy any of these little exotics because that everybody, there's obviously a hidden agreement that we have not seen, and they're keeping everything in a channel or a I don't know, what was it, like a, they keep it in a pattern, where they don't allow it to get too expensive or too cheap. They it kind of defines the lack of manipulation supposedly, and now Mrs. Yellen will be the one, whereas Secretary Mnuchin before her, so Secretary Yellen now will be telling us if something's being manipulated or not. And so, and when you hear who they say, oh yeah, they're not manipulating their currency, you shake your head and you go, they've got to be manipulating their currency. But obviously, whatever rules they have to define manipulation are making the exotics have a life of their own. And it's almost like a cost sharing thing. You imagine if they're keeping these exotic pairs in a range or a structure, there must be an agreement by all the governments in the world to follow it. I mean, isn't that the best way to describe it? Is that the world is in collusion with itself. And I think that's what probably is something hard for people to get used to, when we have central banks now being the buyers of last resort. And so that's the thing that probably has a lot of people confused about. But here, we follow the math, and the math has been showing us that. And so the little exotic pairs trades seem, in the currencies, seem to have a life of their own. And as much as we thought that it would stop, it hasn't, and that's because the world is in more debt today than it was, before, and because it's in more debt today than before, they're not changing the way they keep everything in line. All these exotic little pairs are being kept in line by the central banks because it's the only game in town. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. It's the only game in town. So I'm not that paranoid about smaller exotic pairs trades solely for that particular reason. And so that's a. Now here's something. Before we leave, I wanted to show you this. Let me just do this. Let's go down to here again. This caught my eye. The amount of money going into PBOC injects the most liquidity in 4 months. They injected 248 billion won, which is what, 24 billion, almost 25 billion dollars. It's not a lot, I mean, really, that's a rounding number in the United States. You got to wonder all the time about how big that economy is when you hear stories like this. I mean, the math doesn't match up. Like you see here, back in December, they injected 800, almost like 900 billion won, which is like $90 billion. That's it. Not even. And then you can see they pulled it out. The little red represents them doing a repo, and then what's the other side of it? Banks, when they put money into the banks, and they buy bonds from the banks. They put cash in, they buy the bonds. And then when they want to pull cash out of the banks, they sell them the bonds back and take the cash. Did I do that right? So that's what's, so that's repos. They call them repos. And so when you look at these numbers, they're not exactly explosive. I mean, look at the net carry-all over here. I mean, you're looking at $40 billion. I mean, when we do it in the States here, we're doing it with like, $400 billion, Whoa, what was that? Well, something there. That's good. No. Bing. All right. So anyway, Doc from North America saying arrivederci. We will catch you guys on the flip side. Happy trails to you. Oh, wait, I got to read this. So Daniel says, so dollar, Chinese yuan appreciating versus dollar. Yeah, yeah, but I think it's likely to go up in the next couple of months. I imagine, but they have an agreement already. They already know what they want it to do. We just have to sit and watch it. That's why the math is always better than the fundamentals. Happy trails to you. Until we meet again, which will be TG. Today's Thursday, right? Yeah. Happy trails to you. Remember, thank goodness it is Friday tomorrow. So happy trails to you, to all our